An unfathomable world. A world we know exists, but nobody wants to get to know.
The men incarcerated here are extremely dangerous.
Total anarchy.
The more corrupt, the better for me.
Behind bars is a struggle just to survive. And only the strongest will survive.
I keep on fighting to get out of here for them.
Their lives are always in somebody else's hands.
Pretty much caged animals. They'll lock you up and throw away the key.
Behind bars. In the toughest prisons in the world. Bogota, a city heavily influenced by its history, and yet a city on the brink of upheaval. The economy is growing, and an increasing number of people are relocating to the cities in search of a better life. The gap between rich and poor is growing. People in the slums have to fight particularly hard, finding ways to make ends meet. Drugs define everyday life here. The number of addicts is rising every year. One of Bogotá's toughest jails, Carcel Distrital. These walls surround men and women who lost their battles outside and were forced to start a brand new one here. A battle against justice, their fellow inmates, and themselves. Daily life is shaped by conflict and violence.
Another inmate attacked me. He stabbed my eye.
Every day the guards compete in their struggle for power against the inmates. Coming out on top is pretty tough.
A hiding place. It's empty now, but they keep on using it.
However, the prisoners also have to overcome emotional conflicts too.
I feel so much pain inside of me. I haven't seen them for so long, and then they are only here for a few hours.
However, the illegal goings-on behind the prison walls also make their mark outside them too. Very few of those in here turn their lives around. They keep on fighting until they lose. It is just before 5 a.m. in one of Bogotá's most dangerous neighborhoods, and this room is the safest of them all.
Good morning.
It's the location of the morning roll call for all the guards, sergeants, and lieutenants on duty at Carcel Distrital. A total of about 170 people are tasked with making sure that the prison is secure and everything is in order. It takes a lot out of the staff, day in, day out. For 12 long hours, employees here have to stay alert, be prepared, and show no weakness. The day starts at 5 in the morning for the 1,000 or so inmates. Just 50 members of the prison population are female. Every morning starts with a shower and a wash. After all, hygiene is very important in prison. Diseases can spread at an alarming speed. The women share a 4-person cell. Jenny Ladino was sentenced to 8 years for racketeering and has already served 4. She is the boss of the women's wing.
Here in this wing, I'm responsible for human rights. I've had this role for the past 17 months, representative for human rights. The prison supervisors tell me how to approach certain steps and how to implement them.
Her role is seen as something of a conflicting one. The person needs to be an intermediary between the guards and the inmates. Every wing has a representative for human rights, so there are 6 in total. 5 wings are for men. Most of them are in for theft, possession of a firearm, or sexual offenses. The smallest wing is home to the female inmates. Most are here for theft or fraud. In the back part of the prison is the workshop area, where a select group of prisoners are able to work during the day. The workshop is opposite the kitchen. One level up is the isolation wing for prisoners who have misbehaved. The prison administration is located in a smaller, separate building. Visitor checks are also conducted here, as is the induction process for new inmates. Camilo Cristancho Barantes has already been here for 18 months, and he has one of the most sought-after jobs in the prison. He works in the kitchen. Like those employed in the workshop, the inmates who work here have a chance to reduce their sentence. So because Camilo spends 16 hours a day slaving away in the kitchen, he has reduced his sentence, but only by half, so 8 hours. However, for him, there is another important factor at work here.
The good thing about this job is that I stop thinking about the guards and the fact that I'm locked away. If I wouldn't have this job, it would be pretty tough.
Camilo is in for terrorist activity, though he hasn't received his final sentence yet. The prosecutor's office has applied for 12 years. Camilo had to go through 6 months of various suitability checks before he got the job. That's because the kitchen has one huge draw: weapons.
If a knife disappears, we're all sent off to solitary confinement until it turns up again. And after that, we're sent to a worse wing. It's a tricky subject because a knife like this one here can be turned into 10 smaller knives.
That's why there is a strict protocol. Every time a prisoner needs a utensil, he has to inform the guard, who makes a note of what has been taken.
If anything goes missing, none of the prisoners are allowed back to their cells until it appears. However, this shouldn't happen and almost never does.
We've lost things in the past. Then we have to empty out the trash and keep on searching until we find it.
After all, none of the inmates want to lose this job. In addition to getting their sentence reduced, they also earn $9 a day, which goes straight to their families outside. Running the kitchen is a full-time job. The 1,000 or so inmates are fed 3 times a day. Food is provided by the district or is donated. Families can buy extra snacks for the prisoners on the on-site supermarket. Nothing from the outside is allowed in. The first highlight for the prisoners happens at 6 a.m., breakfast. To receive their food, they have to line up in a certain order. Just one of the guards' permanent disciplinary measures. Lunch is the main meal here. Breakfast and dinner tend to be smaller. Egg, banana, and even avena, a drink made from oatmeal, and arepas, Colombian maize dough. Between 5 in the morning and 5 in the afternoon, prisoners are confined to the inner courtyard. The cells are locked, so that's 12 long hours with nowhere to retreat to, let alone get any privacy. Although things are quieter here than in the men's wings, arguments and fights often break out. However, women tend to rely more on psychological games to bring others down.
On my first day, 12 of us arrived here in the wing at 7 in the evening. We were called up and the girls all started screaming. It's always like that. When someone new arrives here, they start to screech, "Send her in." It feels as though they want to eat you or something. They said stuff like, "Bring that beauty here." I didn't have a clue what would happen. You have to grow a big pair of balls in here. From that day onwards, I realized that I am in a prison and that I have to adapt. Since then, I have been fine.
Chef Camilo doesn't just serve food to the normal wings. He also feeds the solitary confinement wing. This is mainly home to prisoners who have misbehaved and are being punished.
Hello. Hi, just 4 today.
In the case of minor offenses, such as fights that don't result in bodily harm, the accused tend to spend just a few hours here. For brawls or possession of a weapon, the inmates can spend up to 5 days in isolation before a committee decides whether to extend their stay or not.
He's in the high security section because he's involved in a conflict with someone else in his wing, and he can't go back until it is resolved.
Isolation is the toughest punishment for the inmates. Barely any daylight, one toilet, one bed, and that's it.
For prisoners in the isolation wing, we switch on the lights at 5 in the morning, taking the mattress and blankets with us. In this area, they are only allowed in their cell, and that's it. They get 1 hour of sunlight each day, but no more. And they're allowed to go outside in the northern part of the prison twice a day, though that's only with the supervision of a chaperone.
However, inmates who have misbehaved aren't the only ones who end up here. Prisoners recovering from illness or injury also come here, usually staying longer than the culprits, just like this inmate.
Polo Perez has been here for about 7 days. He has to recover because he had an operation and still needs to be checked by the doctor. He's not allowed back to the wing until the doctor says so.
One of Polo Perez's fellow inmates drove a knife into the area just above his right eye, with severe consequences.
I had some problems with another inmate, which ended up with me getting stabbed in the eye. Now I have to stay here for hygienic reasons. Then it's back to hospital, where they'll check how my sight is doing. There's always trouble here in prison. I try to avoid it, but there are just problems all the time.
Now Polo Perez has one more problem: fading eyesight. And this is the person responsible, John Fernando Gonzalez Diaz. He's been here for 3 years for aggravated robbery.
What's up, what's up? We're right here from Bogota, Colombia. You know what I'm saying? Colombia, real, jail. What's up?
He has his own injuries from the fight. 2 more scars, 2 more reminders of his time in prison.
It's happening in a fight. You know, actually got my business and all these things. I got charged my money. They don't want to pay me, so I got into the fight. You know how it is. It's jail. And in this country is Colombia, you know. It's hard country.
And it's a country where relationships count for a lot. Or to put it better, in a prison, it is especially important to know the right people. John Fernando knows this all too well.
That's my friend. That's the guy who I like him right here in jail. You know? That's the guard. That's the only guard that I heard because he's a nice guy. Herrera. What's up, Herrera?
John Fernando is the boss of his wing, a position he earned following a number of power struggles, most involving knives, as well as his good relationships with the guards. Even prison isn't free from bribery and corruption. Nevertheless, the majority of the guards make sure the inmates are aware they're in prison. Reprimands and humiliation are popular methods for this.
You have to wear the orange shirt properly and be cleanly shaved. You haven't shaved. You can't go to get checked out without a clean shave.
I know. My shirt was covered in blood, so someone threw it away.
Inmates are required to look after their prison uniform. If they don't, they get a sanction.
This is jail.
This is nothing new for John Fernando. This is his 4th time in prison. And with the way he likes to earn money, it's probably not his last either.
I want to be rich someday, that's for sure. I want to have $1 million. Someday I will. And I like to live good, you know. So my family and all my family, my background is stolen always. Be traveling around the world stealing money. So that's what I learned. That's what I do, you know.
The majority of inmates come from a similar family background and are unable to break the habits they've grown up with. Even while they're in prison, there's no stopping their criminal activity.
So many people and everybody look for the same things, you know, make some money, make some coins to send her family. So that's the war. You gotta be every day. And you gotta be in war with the police too, looking up they not take out your drugs or your money, or you know.
And then the time finally comes. John Fernando leaves the prison for the first time in 3 years. Even though he's just going for a quick checkup at the hospital, a lot can still happen. The risk, he escapes, or someone tries to free him. That's why the guards are heavily armed. In the prison, they are only equipped with batons, but now their hands are on their pistols at all times. After breakfast, most of the inmates are left to kill time in the inner courtyard. But not Jenny, the human rights representative in the women's wing. She is in the cells. But this isn't one of her privileges. The reason is somewhat more unpleasant and annoying, but it's part of her job.
Jenny, can you remove the things from under the mattress?
Inmates are only allowed certain items in their cells. A set of spare clothes, a towel, no food. Jenny has to remove anything that doesn't belong here under the watchful eye of the guards.
We start the search when the shift changes at 7:30 a.m., just like we're doing at the moment. In the afternoons, when we lock them back up, we go around again with a list and check all the cells for a second time. These checks are always accompanied by Jenny, the representative for human rights.
The representatives are elected by the other inmates and a committee from the prison administration. This is the 4th time Jenny has held this role. Her main job is to mediate between the guards and inmates, an almost impossible task. An incident occurs during the cell search. One of Jenny's fellow inmates has an epileptic fit. 27-year-old Claudia Patricia Macias Toro. This isn't the first time this has happened. In emergencies like this, a doctor is called to the wing straight away to provide first aid.
Ever since Macia has been out of hospital and back in prison, taking all this medication, she has been dizzy all the time, the whole time. While she's walking or going up and down the stairs.
Yes, that's right. While showering, going up and down stairs, basically all the time.
Until Claudia feels better, she's allowed to stay in one of the cells as an exception. However, this is the only special treatment she gets. Jenny hasn't finished her job yet. What has she got to show for it? 2 bags full of trouble.
I have to tell the women exactly what has been taken. And of course they get angry. Even I would get mad if they took something from me.
And it's precisely because the inmates here don't have much that they have to fight for the little they do have, be it shampoo, a towel, or their favorite seat.
We all argue here in some way or other because we aren't happy. You just want to be left in peace here. Everything that the guards do is bad anyway. There are a lot of people here who understand that, and there are a few who don't. And that's part of my work as a representative too. I have to sit down and explain. Girls, this is happening, that is happening.
As the bridge between the guards and prisoners, the representatives often get caught in the crossfire. Sometimes their fellow inmates accuse them of being snitches, and the guards don't mind passing the more unpleasant jobs on to them either.
Molina Susatama Carlos!
Every time an inmate leaves their wing, the guard has to conduct a very careful check. Because the prisoners carry all their belongings with them during the day to stop them from getting stolen, there are plenty of opportunities for smuggling smaller items in and out. When leaving, the inmate also has to hand in his ID, allowing the guards to keep an eye on the 170 or so male prisoners in each wing. John Fernando is about to get his ID back again. Following his stay in solitary confinement and subsequent trip to the hospital, he is now allowed back to his wing, the wing where what he says goes. However, there is always a second in command, for occasions exactly like this when the number one boss is in solitary confinement. And this is not a rare occurrence. These unofficial leaders are a real thorn in the side for the guards. In the event of any problems, they are the first to be held responsible. This is the easiest solution, and lots of the guards like to take the easiest way out. Nevertheless, John Fernando's 12-man crew still did everything they could to get their first boss out of isolation.
So this guy went to the police and tell me, okay, we're gonna give some knives and we're gonna give some drugs, but take the guy down from there, you know? And we're gonna be okay. If you not do it, we're gonna go and work against you and against everybody, you know? So the police, they don't like these things happen, you know? So that's it, my guy go and do the trick, and the police take the drugs and take the knives, and they take me down, that's it. I was 15 days already, and it was too much. My people miss me, so that's what's up with my nigga right here. It's my boys right here. We represent Colombia, you know? That's what's up here, around here. Colombia. And that's my work. That's why I'm the boss.
And the boss divides up the jobs within his gang. There are errand boys, knife carriers, fighters, and one member who is indispensable.
That's why my guy right here, he have his face covered, because he's my guy. He's the drug dealer. He's the important part of my gang, because he make my money, you know? He making my money, he put it in my bank account, and I pay him. This guy is my right side too, because when I have a fight or something like that, they go out of control, he have the people outside who shoot him, you know? So he make a call, yo, what's up? Go for this guy family. Boom, 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 boom. Fuck it up.
Even though the men in the prison live in a microcosm, the problems outside the prison walls don't go away. After all, the world keeps on turning. Families still have to fight for every cent. Women have to raise children on their own. Brothers are still out there in the gangs, and the murders on Bogotá's streets continue. A few days ago, this inmate's younger brother was stabbed in the middle of the street at the age of just 23. The two hadn't had any contact in months because the inmate was imprisoned. Now he joins his father and older brother to see him for the last time. Dead. A constant presence, the prison guards. Even in extreme situations like this, they make no exceptions and do not relax their watch. The only concession, they keep their distance slightly, out of respect. The prisoner has just 10 minutes to say goodbye to his dead brother.
Would you please give us another minute? Just one more short minute?
Many of the inmates don't even get the chance to say goodbye to their deceased relatives. The extra costs needed to travel to the prison are too high for most of those left behind. For the father and his eldest son, the day of mourning isn't over yet. They still have to go to the women's prison where the mother of the deceased resides. After a brief 15 minutes, the click of the handcuffs ends the brother's final farewell. Now the inmate is once again alone with his grief. Loss and separation play a huge role in the prison and hit the inmates hard. The same goes for Claudia, who has recovered from her epileptic fit.
I didn't used to have this many attacks because I took medication. It has gotten worse here because I'm in prison. I have problems and I get worried, which has made it worse.
The medicine she gets now is not enough.
We haven't had full-time medical support here for almost a year. They don't care whether Claudia is well or not.
Claudia's preliminary sentence is 17 years. She has put in an appeal, but the chances don't look good based on the severity of her crime.
I am here for human trafficking.
Although she claims to be innocent, everyone else in here does too. The most difficult thing for her is explaining to her 2 children where she is.
So, the first time my daughter asked me was the first time that she came to visit me. She asked me what I do in prison, and I told her that it isn't prison, it's a school. And now she says, my mom is studying at the moment. My mom is a student. But I believe she understands where I am, simply because she has already asked me, and she is already 5.
Many of the inmates don't find it easy to maintain relationships with other people. The distance and the infrequency of the contact takes up a lot of energy, sometimes too much for the ones affected. They end up wanting to cut their ties with the inmates. Now and then, couples get together in the prison where mutual understanding is guaranteed.
I had a little something going with a man here for almost 2 years. Although the guys here are very respectful, they are also macho types. This means that they also always show a certain level of aggression towards us women.
But most of the women here know how to defend themselves. The male and female inmates have very little contact in the prison. Couples only see each other on specific days. Any other contact takes place in the workshops, which are open 5 days a week, 2 hours in the morning and 2 in the afternoon. The goal of the 12 workshops is to get prisoners used to normal, non-criminal work. They should learn how to make money this way. The thinking behind this is making its mark on Jenny.
We want to form a startup on the outside with 2, 3, or 4 people from the prison. This will give them work. We will make stuffed animals and dolls. I want to keep doing what I've learned here in prison on the outside, in a small business.
In addition to the workshops, the prisoners also have the chance to take their high school exams. An added bonus for the inmates, they can reduce their sentence as a result. Every hour they spend here working or studying is deducted from their sentence. The problem? Too little workshop space for too many inmates. After every workshop block, the course leaders have to collect all the tools. After all, there is also an underlying risk here, too, that the prisoners will smuggle scissors, needles, or blades into their wings and use them as weapons. That's why there are strict rules for taking out and returning the tools.
I record everything. Everything has to be registered. Everything has an ID number. I have the guard's trust. I believe that I've done a very good job here so far.
The suitability check lasted 4 months, seeing as not everyone is suited to this role.
Of course, other inmates ask me if I can get something for them. Thank God I have managed to stay strong so far. I've gained trust, and this is a special role. And what's more, there's always a guard there anyway.
Only those who behave well in prison and haven't attracted attention get the chance to receive a job in the workshop. Otherwise, there is too much of a risk of the inmates letting loose on one another with the heavy machinery. And even though the checks are stringent, inmates still keep managing to steal smaller tools or even make their own in the workshops. John Fernando's gang is at the forefront of this activity. Every single one of them has a weapon. They use small magnets on the knives to outwit the guards.
So when they search you, they're not gonna find anything, right? That's why we have that like that.
Knife fights take place in the wings on an almost daily basis. The prisoners wear the evidence with pride, a sign that they don't go out of their way to avoid trouble. There are plenty of reasons for conflict: boredom, a fight for power, theft between inmates, money, drugs. The majority of the prisoners also took drugs outside of prison and don't intend to give it up here either. There are plenty of ways to get drugs into the prison. Because the guards are often pushed to their limits, these guys often come into play. Drug detection dogs. Once a week, there's an unannounced raid. The dogs are trained to uncover any form of cocaine, such as bazuco, a waste product from cocaine production, and marijuana. The drug detection dogs were first deployed 2 years ago, and since then, the success rate of raids has increased by 30%.
Let's see what it is.
Creepy.
Good boy. Very good. That's my boy. Excellent. Very good. Let's go. Very good.
Marijuana in a toilet roll.
I need to write a report saying in which cell we found it and how we found it. This report then goes to the watch commando. It's their duty to find out who's guilty. Because 4 men live in here, things can get tricky. They will blame each other and then we won't know who it belongs to.
The inmates have lots of time on their hands to keep thinking up new hiding places.
We've often found things hidden in a piece of soap, as it can simply be stuck back together. There's a hole here. We haven't spotted that before. That's a hiding place. A good hiding place. It's empty at the moment, but they keep using it.
This is how the inmates smuggle things if they're moved to another prison, for instance. However, there are plenty of hiding places in the prison, too.
They mix toilet paper and toothpaste to create a malleable material. They stick it all together so you can hardly see it because it's white as well. Then it turns into a secret hiding place inside this paper mix.
The longer a guard is here, the more hiding places he finds out about. And yet, The inmates' ingenuity knows no bounds. Many of them see it as a kind of cat and mouse game.
The drugs are flushed away and attached to a nylon thread. They secure the nylon thread somewhere around here. Sometimes you can't even see it because the nylon threads are transparent. And when they need the drugs again, they find the thread and pull on it. They pack it all into small plastic bags. They are really good hiding places.
And even though the inmates are, of course, angry when the guards find their drugs and confiscate them, they will always be replenished. This is where the location of Carcel Distrital plays into their hands. The prison is surrounded by public, freely accessible roads. Accomplices outside the prison throw packages over the walls. The missiles that don't make it into the courtyards end up on this table. Marijuana, cocaine, bazuco are the most common packages, along with weapons and cell phones. The smuggled goods are often divided up in a way that makes them easy for the inmates to hide. The guards search the roofs at least once a week.
Today, the surveillance department informed us that something had been thrown. This stayed up on the roof and didn't fall down. The security team went straight up there and collected it all, and that's what we have here on the table. Of course, everything was in different packaging, inside plastic bags and wrapped up in plastic wrap.
Even though this looks like a lot, the lieutenant predicts that just a quarter of the projectiles end up here. The rest land in the courtyard with the inmates. However, throwing items over the walls isn't the only popular method for smuggling. Lots of banned items find their way into the prison via visitors. Friends and relatives come to visit the inmates every weekend. The prison decides who gets to visit and when. Today is the inmates' children's turn. This includes Claudia's daughters, who finally have the chance to see their mother again. But first, they have to pass through multiple checks. There are strict rules on what visitors are allowed to bring into prison. Nevertheless, they still attempt to smuggle in as much as possible.
Children, please do not move. Those of you who've been here before know that you aren't allowed to touch the dogs during the checks. I'll let you pet the dogs afterwards, okay?
Frisking is mandatory for visitors, even for children.
The most common thing people smuggle is marijuana, cocaine, or bazuco. Now the dog is signaling, so we have to check what it is. A little while ago, I had to take a few bits of candy away from a woman. She had brought in food, and that's not allowed. But now we'll have to do a more intensive check.
To be able to visit the prison, you need to complete a lot of paperwork. ID papers, birth certificates, and the application form have to be complete and valid. The majority of visitors have already gotten used to the 1-hour entry process. They have just one goal in their sights: finally being reunited with their loved ones. On visiting days, the mood in the wings is very tense to begin with. There's a lot of anxiety over whether everything will go all right with the checks. 27-year-old Claudia hasn't seen either of her daughters for 18 months. Her family doesn't have enough money and lives too far away to visit her more often. Her youngest was just 2 months old when she was arrested.
I'm really nervous.
Claudia has been counting the days to this moment for months, and now it has arrived. The two girls are accompanied by Claudia's brother, who looks after the children. He, too, has to wait a long time to be able to hug his sister.
I am so unbelievably happy.
For the prisoners, the worst thing is that they miss so much and are unable to be part of their families' lives.
I'm so happy to have them with me again. They are my motivation. I keep on fighting to get out of here for them. I didn't get to see how the little one learned to crawl or walk. It's so difficult not to be a part of it all.
For 2 whole hours, the inmates can give their children all the love and affection they need, playing happy families for 2 hours, if it wasn't for the high prison walls. But not everyone is happy today. 3 of the inmates' children were not allowed in, and Jenny can't do anything in her role as a go-between.
Children over the age of 14 have to bring their children's ID. A mere registration document isn't enough. The guards won't let them in without one. And that's exactly what just happened. The women are impatient and crying because they haven't seen their children for 20 days or more, but they're not letting them in.
The women see the others' children as their own family too. The time they share behind bars creates a strong bond.
She's my goddaughter, so it really means a lot to see her. I don't have any daughters. She knows who I am. She recognizes me. She knows that I'm her godmother. That's why it's so lovely to have her here.
Jenny has children of her own, but they never come to visit her.
I'm happy, but also anxious because I can't see my own sons. But whatever. I still have to enjoy these 2 hours. I have to enjoy the hugs, so Claudia can enjoy them too. They give us hugs and kisses. That's lovely.
Every second is precious. The inmates try to make up for everything they are unable to give their children on the outside, even when they know that it's impossible. In these 2 hours, they're simply mothers and fathers again. And yet the happy sound of children's laughter disappears again all too soon. After exactly 2 hours, visiting time is over. The guards make no exceptions. For Claudia, this means that it's time to say goodbye. The women try to stay strong for their children, but only very few manage. That's because only a very small number of them know when they'll see their loved ones again, when they can be there for their kids again, when they're getting out of here. That is the hardest thing about prison for the inmates, the uncertainty. Jenny has her next hearing in 6 months and hopes that her sentence will be reduced again following good behavior. She wants to get out of prison, even though there's barely anybody waiting for her on the outside.
I don't know what I should do, because I lost all the people that I had. I have had no contact with my youngest son for 4 or 5 years. Well, only very little contact over the phone. Barely any. I don't know what I'm going to do. Or at least, I don't know yet. But I want to set up this small business with my mother and another woman from prison.
John Fernando's wrongdoings are causing him more and more problems in the prison. When he'll see his child and pregnant wife again is unclear.
Right now I can tell when I'm out. I'm in right here into the 59 minute, right? Into the 60 minute, I'm out. Until I'm right here. I don't know, things happen. Look at the fight last time. I took out that guy eye. Right now I got another charge. That's things, they happen. So I can't tell you anything else.
Claudia continues to hope that her sentence will be reduced so she can finally see her children grow up. A battle that's draining all her strength.
I have so much pain inside of me. I haven't seen them for so long, and then they are only here for a few hours. It's a happy moment, but afterwards you just feel sad. I don't know when I can see them again, hold them in my arms, kiss them, play with them.
Perhaps it will take 1 or even 2 years before the family has saved enough money for their next visit. Until then, all she has left is pain and longing. The inmates have one thing in common. They all want to get out of here as quickly as possible and never end up behind bars again. But they all have to fight for it, battling the slow justice system and their inner criminal.